Just visualize being in this meeting. I said, I want you to think about, I'm gonna make this room very uncomfortable. I want you to think about you and your spouse just had sex. Newsflash, you are probably not better in everything than Bob. Look at your face just got red because
God, I feel like that would be it.
In life, we compare always our weaknesses to someone's strength. And you know you have so much talent, but you're afraid to go on because you might get dirty and disappoint yourself. So bank on your gifts, improve the skill sets you need to become what you want to live and who you want to be. You are the true hero. Without you, this industry is going to be extinct.
All right, friends, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the VIP Financial Ed YouTube channel. I got to tell you, this episode is a literal dream come true. This is Patrick Bet-David. Patrick, thank you so much for being here today.
Yes, thanks for having me.
I can't wait to get more info from you. So this is the perfect interview to do for those of you that have been struggling to take yourselves out of that W-2 position and get into the world of entrepreneurship and owning a business, being a CEO, living life on your terms. And what I really want to do is just sort of give you a timestamp of what's happening today. In order to do that, we have to visit 2009, right? So we have this guy who, in what many people were arguing was the heart of the biggest recession, the greatest economic downturn since the Great Depression. And he's saying to himself, now's a great time to start an insurance agency, right? 29 years old. And this is an industry, by the way, that is dominated by 60-plus-year-old men, right? And he's saying, hey, this is when I want to open my doors. That alone should tell you something, because if you're sitting there wondering, when is the perfect time? Hey, maybe there's not a perfect time, and we're going to dig more into that. But first, he started out with what, 66 agents that kind of tagged along with you. They believed in you. They wanted to be a part of the journey. Mm-hmm. Today, now has damn near 10,000, right? 9,900.
We're about to crack 10,000 here this month.
Guys, he's got 1.2 million subscribers here on YouTube, hundreds of thousands on his other platforms and social. Last conference you had for your company hit 5,000 attendees, had an appearance from none other than Mr. Kevin Hart.
I want my company to fill this same room and be the same level of energy.
The success is mind-blowing, and sitting here for 30 minutes before we turn on these cameras continues to enlighten me. So, Patrick, let's kind of dive right into it. Tell me first and foremost, before we acknowledge some of your other accomplishments here, why in 2009 would you leave Transamerica, right? Because you have a fairly lengthy career there, 7 years, right? Mm-hmm. And you step into your own business. What would inspire something like that? How does somebody go about that?
So it's so interesting you asked that question, because I was talking about this 2 days ago with a guy that flew in to meet with me on Saturday. So we escaped Iran. And one of the reasons why we left Iran 6 weeks after Khomeini died, I lived there until I was 10 years old. Khomeini dies, 6 weeks later we leave. We go to Germany. We live at a refugee camp in Germany in Erlangen near Nuremberg for 2 years, and then I come to the States. I go to school. So the whole thing with me is I am all about control and freedom. We're in America because we have control and freedom. Control and freedom of what? Assembly, religion, opinion. I mean, when we first came to the States, my mom's watching TV, and the news guy starts talking bad about the president, George Bush Sr. And my mom says, poor man, they're going to kill him tomorrow, because in Iran, you can't do that. Mm-hmm. But in America, you got freedom of speech, and that's not something we're used to in the Middle East. So I like control, I like freedom. When I was working at this company, and I was watching where they were going at, I had to make a decision to control the narrative of what I wanted to do. And I was making very good money. I went and met with every single one of my friends, and they told me, they said, Pat, you realize to make the kind of money you make from scratch is not easy. Sometimes when you win once, you think you're going to win every single time, and you have no idea what it is to risk being a CEO, risk leaving your career here. But there's no way in the world I could live with myself if I didn't make that move. So one day in the middle of the night, I've been telling my wife for 6 months, I'm telling you, I have to figure out something to do. In 2008 was probably a year where my temper was the worst, and I was not aligned with what I believed in and what I was living. I was out of whack a little bit because I had control and I had restraints on what I wanted to do. And I kept asking myself, I have this life, I lived all these different things. There's no way in the world I experienced this life just to go be a millionaire, that's it, or make money. There's got to be something bigger to it. So after a few meetings with different people, I finally had a meeting with a man named George Will, who was a former advisor to Reagan. And we sat down and I said, listen, I'm looking for this. And we were at Miramar Hotel, Santa Monica. And he said, listen, you got to realize, why don't you go study why you came here as an immigrant and why so many people around the world come to America. So I said, okay. I went, and it all led me to entrepreneurship, capitalism, business, freedom, all that stuff. I said, that's the reason. So
were you independent at Transamerica?
I was independent at Transamerica. Yeah, I control my income. There wasn't a W-2. I didn't have benefits.
So you already had a bit of a taste of the self-employment
I ran my own
right?
office. I paid rent for my office. I paid for my staff.
So you had staff?
I had staff. Everything was you paying for. And that's why you get the bigger commission you control. So eventually, middle of the night, 3:30 in the morning, I woke my wife up. I said, we're resigning today.
Wow.
She said, what are you talking about? I said, we're resigning today. She said, you got $65,000 of pending commissions coming. I said, we're resigning today. Babe, are you serious? I'm resigning today. It's done. We've been married for 3 months. And I sent one of these Jerry Maguire type of letters in 7-8 months prior to that. 16 pages, 9 points on what I felt the company had to do. And they had a meeting with me in Irvine. And so I already know where I was at. My mind was made up. That day I resigned. I'd never been a CEO. I've never worked under somebody as a CEO. I've never shadowed a CEO. I don't know what it is to be a CEO. I don't know what it is to buy technology, CRM, nothing, zero. And I took 100% of my savings. And I said, I'm putting it all into business. And I had a meeting. Mario and I were just talking about it earlier today. It was a room. It's September 23rd. Everyone's in the room. And I said, there's a 90% chance we're going to be out of business within 6 to 12 months. There's a 90% chance we're going to be sued. And
you got sued?
I got sued October 29th of 2009, exactly 5 weeks after we resigned. And the lawsuit, you're going to take clients, you're going to do this. 8 months.
By Transamerica.
By Aegon, who owns Transamerica. It's a $400 billion company. And the next thing you know, we settled the lawsuit 9-10 months later. And I told him, here's what I'm not going to cross. Here's what I'm not going to do this. Met our commitments. We've never been sued since. We don't have customer complaints. Like, we're very much about paying it. We can't control agents not being happy because it's a tough business. But we were very clear about wanting to take care of our customers. Long story short, that decision was made in 2009. Probably, you said earlier, not the best time, because a year prior to that, market tanked 38%. Right. AIG almost went out of business. I'm flying all over the place to go negotiate contracts. But the purpose of the decision was controlling narrative, freedom, and knowing where I was at. I was capped of what I could do, and other people could tell me what I needed to do with my creativity, especially with the BD world. You're dealing with so many different regulations, security. You can't post this on Facebook. Mm-hmm. You have to be careful with this. You have to be careful with that. I wanted freedom, and we made that decision.
Well, and I saw you talking about controlling narrative when you were speaking with Pedro, so that was a really good conversation. And I'd like to circle back on controlling with narrative, but before we do, let's talk quickly about the dynamic of this business, right? This agency that you have, because there's so much to be impressed by, in my opinion. You've got over 50% women. Mm-hmm. You've got over 50% Hispanic team members.
Yep.
Average age, 34. It says so much, in my opinion, about what's possible. It keeps coming back over and over again to the underdog story. And I know that you're a huge fan of the underdog story. And you were, as an underdog yourself, right, an immigrant at 10 years old. And then before we start to get into this, and I'm going to give some shout outs at the end, guys, to some stuff that you can take this education and execute on it with resources that Patrick and his team have put together. So make sure you stick around to the end. But take me back to high school, okay? Because this is where I kind of had you wrong. You're sitting there saying, I suck at school. Well, first of all, I know you're a rebel, right? So you didn't like authority.
Never.
And I've seen a huge pattern with that.
Yeah.
As I've been in business and I speak with so many entrepreneurs myself, it seems like there's some level of consistency behind sort of pushing the boundaries and not necessarily wanting to play within the rules with entrepreneurs. How much do you think rebellion plays a role in being a successful business person?
Yeah, so you got to realize there's a big difference between being a rebel without a cause and rebel with a cause.
Bingo. True.
Big difference. So younger Pat was rebel without a cause. The more mature, controlled Pat was rebel with a cause.
Love it.
And so that part's crystal. I don't mind rules. I don't mind laws. I have a problem with rules. I'm not trying to change the law. I'm trying to figure out a way to bend the rules.
Right.
Because sometimes
it's all within ethics, but it
has to be. Yeah, because
you're redefining an industry, though. I can see that firsthand. I can see that you have completely reinvented this insurance concept.
And I appreciate you saying that. I wrote a book, which I don't recommend you reading because it's such a niche book. I wrote it years ago called The Next Perfect Storm. It's only about life insurance. So if
I noticed you don't push that book very
I never push that book. No, because I separate the two businesses I run, and I'm not trying to. I don't like exploiting. I want people to know if I'm doing business with you.
Can we talk about both of them today?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, and you want to buy this and you have this. I don't like doing that. I just want here's who I am with this audience. Here's what I'm doing over here. But this is the part that's important about the whole thing with deciding to change and focus on that audience, and then at the same time, being the underdog. When I look at a market, you have to be able to speak to a market. I can speak to the underdog market very easily because I know where they're at. My number one earner today is a woman. Today, she's a woman, number one earner, and she's only
How old is she?
32 years old. 31 or 32. She's going to probably end up making $2 million a year this year. Okay,
Good for her.
Her and her husband, which they're great at what they do with the business.
So they work together?
They work together, yes. But she is the one that gets the commissions, and so I looked at the market. I said the average agent's a 59-year-old white male. I kept going to insurance conferences. The only one that wasn't white was me. I'm Middle Eastern. And insurance.
Right, and you're in your late 20s,
yeah,
or
my
early
late
30s
20s.
at that point?
All these CEOs are in their 60s, 70s. It's a legacy business. Dad gave it to the son, and son's running it, et cetera, et cetera. So great industry to be a part of. But we went in a complete different direction. I looked at Ron Paul. Okay, Ron Paul, who ran for office multiple times. But when he ran in '94, he went on MySpace and he raised $6 million on MySpace in 24 hours. Became a Guinness Book of World Record.
No kidding.
How is a 70-year-old man raising $6 million on MySpace?
Yeah.
In
and
2004.
see, MySpace was so new too. Social media was unheard of.
So guess who picked it up? In 2004, which Democratic senator gave a message that shocked the entire DNC? Barack Obama. He gets up, he gives this message, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, we got somebody we can rally behind. We can make this guy a president. 4 years later, he runs, he raises a couple $2 billion purely through social media, becomes a two-term president, and then the next president, Donald Trump, our current president, you take Twitter out. Do you really think Donald Trump's president today without Twitter? I think a big part of his campaign is Twitter. So you have to understand the game is changing so much, and I'm looking at Pac Life. Pac Life is still advertising a big whale jumping out of water. Oh, here's Pac Life, here's Pac Life, here's Prudential. All these guys are making all these different people the heroes. I said, we're not going to be doing that. We're going to make the guy or the gal that's doing the work the hero, and the agent that goes at night selling at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night after driving for an hour and a half, you are the true hero. Without you, this industry is going to be extinct. So I gave all my attention to them. Once the attention went to them, and we sat down and figured out a way to realize men, I have an easier time saying no to men, but we have a harder time saying no to women.
Interesting.
So if a woman comes to sell you and I, we're going to be like, wow, she's smart. She knows what she's doing. And she knows this. Yeah, sure, I'll do business with you. But a guy like, I got to watch game, and what do we got going on? How much time? You got 15 more minutes. You're never going to be like that with somebody else purely out of respect, right? Because whatever ethics or whatever values was passed down to us, always respect women, never put your hands on women. All these things that we've always told. Respect, open the door. So I looked at it and I say, great. And to me, my experience, women are workers and they have big dreams. They have a chip. There's a lot of new women coming up that want to compete in the marketplace. We're going to take the social media side. Millennials are dying in the insurance industry. Insurance industry has no clue how to recruit millennials with their Cole Haan shoes and their Brooks Brothers suits. We got to change this game up. And then that became an opportunity. And at first, nobody looked at it and said, wow, these guys are doing something right. What's going on over here? Everybody said, oh, what are you doing here? Why are you going after minorities? Why are you going after...
Yeah, it's very multicultural, and I think that's a huge advantage in a way.
Today it is, but they didn't say that 9 years ago when I was
Well, you had to
pitching
pioneer
this.
that.
Yeah.
So you famously wear a 1.8 GPA shirt, right? I love that shirt, by the way. So you obviously, the book smart side wasn't really your shtick, right? So what was it that, what was school actually like? Because here's where I had you wrong. I thought for sure he's got to be an athlete, right? You're a big guy. You've talked about bodybuilding. You talked about, hey, after I got out of the military, you're looking for what's next, right? Because you went into the Air Force after you graduated high school.
Yeah.
And then professional bodybuilding was on the list, right? It was an option. So I'm thinking he had to have played sports, but you didn't. You shock me here. You come in and you say, I never once played organized athletics.
And here's the thing, though. Here's what you got to realize. I know what I'm weak at. I'm very comfortable with that. I have very quick, fast twitch muscles. My reaction's very quick. I ran very fast. When I was in the military, we would sprint with everybody. So I'd be beating 95% of guys.
You probably
in
would have
sprint.
killed it in sports.
I would have,
if you had
but
played.
my parents, we had no money. I started working at 14 years old at Haagen-Dazs. I lied on my age to get the job because I was tall. Elaine, if you ever see this, Elaine, I lied to you about my age. She was the owner of Haagen-Dazs at Glendale Galleria. But she hired me and she gave me the job. I said, I don't have an ID. She says, no problem. Come on in. I worked. I got paid. So I started working very early. And then after that, I was always from 3:30 was practice. Any sport you played, so I was going straight to work. And I was always selling, working. So never really got into organized sports. Here's another interesting fact about me that most people don't know. You realize from 9th grade to senior year, I have never once missed a day in school. I've never ditched.
So your first day in college, right? Your first semester in college, first day of college.
High school.
But then
never missed.
But then let's jump
But
ahead
in college, no doubt
How'd
about
that
it.
go?
Teacher told me, he says, you don't have to be here. I said, no problem. You will never see me again. So I left. But here's the thing that the part that had me going. I had a teacher named Miss Sinclair, whom I loved till today. Very good friend. She writes me letters. She just sent me
What
a
age?
recent letter. 14 years old, health and guidance teacher. She was a major in the Army, ended up becoming a colonel. She's one of the main reasons why I joined the U.S. Army. I went to the 101st Airborne Division, Air Assault. She impacted my life. I had another teacher named Mr. Woods who taught algebra in a way I liked. I had Miss Tiffany from biology, whom I failed, but I loved the teacher. I had Mr. Panosian who taught English, who's a great teacher. And so I like people. I've always liked people. Like even when you and I sat down for 30 minutes, I'm asking you questions. I'm curious about you. I'm curious about him. I'm a people product. I'm always fascinated by people's stories. My flight today, I sat next to a guy named TJ, whose real name is Tim O'Donnell. He told me his whole story. I can tell you about his dad, his sisters, his mom, his 2 kids. I can tell you what his kids' name are, when their birthday is, everything for an hour and a half. Phenomenal conversation. We exchanged text messages. We're talking. I was a people person, so I love stories of people. But I had no desire to sit down in physics because I'm never going to use it in my life.
Had you ever explored sales throughout your teenage years? Did
Never
you ever
organized.
sample it?
Never organized. I never did organized sales. Now, at the same time, in school, I would go with 2 different backpacks. One was books, one was hats. I'd buy hats from my dad's 99-cent store, and the teams I would buy were the teams that were the worst teams in any sport. So San Jose Sharks, they were last, I would buy their hats.
Okay.
LA Clippers, they were last, I would buy their hats for 99 cents, but I would sell it for $7. So I would make $6 on it in school. So everybody knew, you want a Clippers hat? Here's $7, $7, $7.
So you had a side gig going.
Yes, always. Always. So, I had to figure out a way to make money. My mom would go to sleep at 11 o'clock at night. I'd get in the backyard. I'd go grab my cart that I had from Albertsons. I had a route to go through all the trash cans. I would collect 2-liter bottles and all the cans, and I'd go to Albertsons. I'd do the recycling, come back at 2 o'clock in the morning. She's still asleep. And I made $20 that night. She had no idea.
So you'd sneak out to go make money?
Every night.
That is incredible.
I wanted the Sergei Fedorov rookie card, upper deck. Like literally, I'm telling you, it sounds weird. 1991, Sergei came out, and I wanted this Sergei Fedorov rookie card. I wanted this Shaq Stadium Club 1992 that he came out. So I said, I'm going to go recycle and figure out a way to make money.
So a couple of observations. First of all, you're an incredibly observant person, right? So on top of being a complete numbers geek, right? You're going in and you're looking at what kind of career choices do I have available to me. You're saying, well, bodybuilding is a little too hard on the body, really no real way to make good money. You're then looking at, maybe if you could go back in time and do it over again, you'd be somehow in the production world, right? Looking at directing or producing or even being in front of the camera. I think you've got a gift for all of those things. That's obvious. How much do you think this gift of curiosity, this gift of being observant, how has that played a role for you in being a successful entrepreneur?
It's a good question. People haven't asked me that question. I would tell you probably a lot for a couple of reasons, because most people are not.
I agree with that.
So when I see somebody that does proper research, like you've done research and all this stuff, that says a lot about your character, and that is the best way you give me respect, by doing research. I see sometimes I sit with somebody and there's no notes, no nothing. They're just trying to wing it to land a good interview, but they haven't done any research. That doesn't show any respect to the guest that you're having. That's number one. I think also curiosity. I told the guy today who was sitting next to me, he says, Pat, I'm struggling with my kids. I said, tell me what you mean. TJ, yeah, he said, my 4-year-old and my 2-year-old. He said, I really screamed at my oldest son because he wasn't really giving everything in the game. And I feel really bad. What do you think about it? So I said, I went through the process with him. I said, one time I did, it was pretty bad. It was pretty ugly. I couldn't sleep for 2 nights straight. I felt so bad as a parent. I'm like, you lost the last 2 days, Pat. So I came back and I said, I think most of the time when people ask questions to get answers, they're asking questions about experiences and stories, which is great. I said, one thing changed with me about what I asked questions was, I started asking questions from people about systems. What do you mean, Pat? Let me explain. When a husband and wife tell me, oh, we've been married for 50 years, I would say, okay, walk me through, were you guys ever close to having a divorce? Yes. How many times? 3 times. Can you tell me the years? You're 3, you're 22, you're 39. What were the reasons for each, and what did you guys use to make sure you saved that? Well, the first one was his ex got back in the picture. So he was kind of figuring out what he wants. I'm not like, listen, it's me or her. The second one was our kids really got our life to be difficult and the in-laws got involved. The third one was health. Sexually, I couldn't have sex for 6 months and he was being frustrated and we went through it because sex at 20 when you're married is different than sex at 64. Because at 64 it's like, well, you don't have sex 2 or 3 times a week. Now you're having sex once every other week, but you still need it. So how do you do it? He still needs to be pleased. I need to be pleased. So you need a little bit, it's more embarrassing, it's more uncomfortable. Each time was a different conversation. So I said, what is the system? What did you guys use? What was the protocol used? I'm looking for systems on how people solve issues. So a part of the curiosity is also going deeper. I think there's different levels of curiosity. One curiosity is, how'd you like the movie?
Exactly.
It was a good movie. Awesome. Right. Should I go watch it? Yes.
Small talk, chit-chat.
Yes. But there's a different layer of curiosity that takes you 5, 10 layers deeper. That's what I'm interested in. And I think
because you learn from it.
Every time.
So it is self-serving in a lot of ways, right? This curiosity is, how can I then use this information as a bit of a resource for myself?
It is absolutely self-serving. So again, the reason why somebody watching this ought to say, yeah, but isn't that intruding and isn't that going a little bit too deep? First of all, I've never met anybody that told me, wait.
Right, that's too personal.
That's too personal.
I've
never had anybody tell me that, right? But the second thing is that no one in the world, like, look, if you're a single guy, you go on a date. A guy says, I'm trying to get a really hot girl. Okay, which one do you like the most? This one here. Perfect. Name of the game. 90% of the time she talks, you talk 10%. Now, what do most men do? Well, I'm an executive of my company. Let me tell you who I am. She honestly doesn't care.
That's right.
She wants you to know who she is. Yeah.
Right.
So if you're doing that, then there's the aspect of, wow, this person really cares. Yeah. But you're also learning. So there's a benefit to the person that you're curious about, and there's a benefit to you because you're getting more information to be able to know if this is a good fit or not, or if this is just a fun relationship you're going to have.
Key to sales, ironically.
I tell you, curiosity, both parties win. Both parties win in curiosity.
That's amazing. So we're sitting here and we say, okay, so we've got bodybuilding's out. We decide that producing, acting, directing, probably not the direction you're going to go. You land a position with Charles Schwab, right? Well, how did that end up coming about initially? This is still early 20s.
Yes.
2000, 2001?
2001.
Oh, no, this was right before, day before 9/11.
Day before 9/11.
Oh,
you got
God,
it.
what a crazy time to get in.
Exactly. So I'm at Venice Beach. I meet this girl, Jean-Vier, beautiful girl. We connect. We started going out, and she's taking me out in different cars. She makes very good money at the time. She was a 24, 25-year-old broker making $400 a year. Okay? All her clients were the Laker people. All the Laker players were her clients.
And that's pretty exciting, too, if you're
very
in your
much
early
so.
20s and
Yes.
you like sports.
But she was not the typical 25-year-old. She walked in a room. She owned the place. Very simple. She had a lot of swagger. She's a UCLA product, and she knew how to get in the door. So anyways, we started dating, and I said, so tell me what you do at Morgan Stanley Dealers. I'm a stockbroker, so how can I become a broker at
Morgan Stanley. I think it's Schwab, right?
I said, how can I become a broker at Morgan Stanley Dealers? And she says, well, you need a 4-year degree. I said, I'm not going to go to college. They're just not going to hire you. So that's the process when I went through. Back then it was fax, and I faxed a joke with my cover letter. And then I got calls.
Really?
And no, literally, I put a joke, my best joke on a cover letter. I send it in. I said, if you're laughing right now, this is exactly how my clients are going to feel when they do business with me. They're going to love me. If you want somebody like me part of your team, give me a call. 100 faxes. I got 30 response, 15 offers for interviews, 3 offers for a job. I took 1 offer from Morgan Stanley Deanwood of Glendale, and I got started the day before 9/11. And that's how my career got started. Series 7, 66, 31, 26, Life and Health. At 21, 22 years old.
So how long did you stay with them then?
I was with them for about a year. And then I left.
Went to Transamerica.
Went to Transamerica. I was with Trans for 7.5 years.
Yeah, that was a good career. So that obviously brings us up to where we started this conversation.
Yes.
So then you come 2009, you say, okay, we're starting our own agency. Wow. Okay, so talk to me a little bit about those first months and years in your own agency. What were some of the biggest challenges? So somebody listening today that's saying to themselves, I just don't know if I have what it takes. What did you have to experience? Because you went through a lawsuit.
Yeah.
You depleted your funds down to $13K.
Wow,
You have
good
these
memory. Yeah,
66
$13K. Yep.
agents that have entrusted you with their futures. And here you are, some 29-year-old kid, and that's a lot of pressure to handle. I imagine that this was fairly scary and discouraging and all of those crazy emotions that we go through when we're deciding that we want to be entrepreneurs, right?
So you know, it's crazy you say that. Mario and I were talking about relationships earlier on the drive, and I told him, I said, you know, most people get into a relationship emotionally, and then after the emotions are gone, because you have to make some real logical decisions, then you start realizing how important logical decisions are, and then you bring it into the table of relationship. Then she's like, wait a minute, I thought you loved me. And it's too late because
right.
you've managed expectations the wrong way. So for me, when I was single and I thought I knew what kind of a girl I was looking for, what kind of a woman I was looking for, I was clueless. And I was dating all the time. I had all these girls, but I thought I was looking for this girl, and I was not. I read a book, 101 Questions to Ask Before You Get Engaged, and I got clear. It got very clear to me logically who I wanted to be with and emotionally who I wanted to be with. Here's why. This is what I told him earlier. I said, let me ask you a question. Husband and wife, you know, what percentage of their marriage do you think they're having sex? He says, what do you mean? I said, what percentage of your marriage are you having sex with your wife? Very small percentage.
It's got to be less than 1.
It's less than 1%. Because
way less than 1.
If you're having sex once every 4 days,
right.
That's 48 of the 24, 96
two
hours.
2.5 minutes.
So think about that.
Right?
So think about that. If sex lasts beginning to the end, average, they say 15 minutes, okay? So say 15 minutes is what it takes.
Twice a week.
Twice a week, 30 minutes. Do the math. It's 0.1% of your marriage you're having sex, okay? So then think about what percentage of your marriage you're having date nights and having emotional conversations and really like emotion, you know, all that stuff. A small percentage. What percent of your marriage are you having logical decisions? What do you mean? What percentage of the marriages, should we buy the house? Are we ready to buy this? Are we ready to do this with finances, retirement, insurance, kids, in-laws? You know, what school? Can we afford this? Can we afford that? It's all
probably
logical.
90% of the time you're awake and together.
Of the
it's gotta
time.
be, right?
90% of the time. So for me, one of the things I started doing when I was single, this is who I was when I was single. Say I went out with a girl, and I know there's no way I'm at a point right now to get married. I'd say, Mary, I just want to manage expectations. I like you a lot, had a lot of fun with you tonight, but I am not looking for a girlfriend.
100% the same
Zero.
thing I did. It worked.
And I just want you to know, I think we can have fun together, and I'm not trying to say I'm looking for a booty call. Right. I'm saying, you want to go out, have fun, and maybe you want to go to my place, your place, I'm fine with that, but I'm not looking for anything right now. You know what happened many times? Here's what they would say. Well, you know what? I am. Perfect. I respect that. We can be great friends together, okay? Or she said, I'm not either. No problem. Then you know what? Let's go out to, what do you want to do tonight? Let's go to a bar. Great. But the expectations managed right up front. Okay.
I think that's really important.
So this brings me to starting a company.
Yeah.
Okay. When I started a company, I managed expectations with everybody up front. Let me explain what I mean by everybody up front. This is what I mean. Very simple. Babe, I just want you to know I am not going to buy you a house in the first 5 years of being married. What do you mean? We have the money. I'm not buying a house because I'm putting 100% of my money in the business. But babe, we have money. Babe, I'm just telling you, that's what we're doing. Number 2, I'm getting you a $3,000 ring. You tell me which one you want, I'll get it for you. I'm not buying you a $30,000 ring, $20,000 ring. When we're married 10 years, then I'll get you a nice ring. Number 2, I don't do Louis Vuitton and Chanel purses. I do Coach purses. They're $300 to $500, and I'll get you a few per year. Once we have multiple kids and we have things going settle in place, you'll get your Chanel purse. Everything was once we do this, once we do this. So what happened with her, she has a choice to say what? This is too much.
Yeah, she can just say, I'm not interested.
You seem too anal, this is too crazy, this is too insane. Or she can sit there and say, wow, okay, everything's organized, this is kind of managed expectations. Let's go. So when I bought a house, she chose, what house do you want? Go pick it. No problem, we're getting this house. I want this house. No problem. I want to, no problem. But we got to that point. So with the company, I sat with everybody. And I want to build a reputation. Since I don't have a degree from Wharton Business School, since my last name is not Bob Ben Moshe, like he's a big CEO, MetLife and AIG CEO. My last name is Bet David. And if anybody's going to make that name Bet David, it's going to be me. Then my kids can say my dad is Patrick Bet David, right? Okay. I learned very early. If you do business with anybody and you can sit up front and manage expectations with anybody that you're going to have a relationship with, friend, business, investors, anybody, and you tell them right up front where you're going to be at, you will gain so much respect from them long term, and you won't have to have that logical conversation with them 6, 12, 24 months from now that is going to come up. So that helped me save a lot of the relationships at a time where I was clueless about what it was to be a CEO.
I find it so interesting that you compare business so often to your romantic relationships, because it's the same thing I've always done. I mean, on my dating profile, when I was, because I was single up until about 3 years ago, and so I got a taste of what modern dating is today. When these apps,
so you have experienced that, even though we're the same age?
Yeah.
See, I don't know what it is to swipe right or swipe left.
No, you missed. It's insane. This profile, my profile, immediately, two very important things to me. And I'm not going to get into politics, but I would, number one. Number two, no kids, right? Because I've never wanted children. And I thought it's extremely important to make that known right away. If you don't want to swipe one way because of that, that's perfectly fine. I'd rather it work that way. Let's not waste each other's time. And I think managing expectations is one of the best skills you can have in every area of life.
I agree.
It's just communication.
I so agree.
Truly. And so let's talk about people that just don't even step foot into the space, right? Into entrepreneurship at all. You wrote something in your book, and it's a great book, guys. 25 Laws for Doing Impossible. Laws of Doing the Impossible. It's a great book. So you wrote, isn't refusing to try the only real guarantee of failure? That's so profound to me, right? Because everybody probably knows this deep down, but why do you think so frequently people let fear stop them? If they're not happy with where they are, if they're not content, isn't it worse to stay in the same place and get the same results versus trying and changing and recreating your identity, as you say, in order to get new results?
It's very similar to not knowing the consequence of smoking while you're smoking a cigarette, or not knowing the consequences of not taking care of your weight while you're in that moment. It's just a cheesecake. It's just another pizza. It's just another this. I don't really have to go to the gym. I don't have to work out. I don't have to do this. I can smoke another cigarette. It's not really a big deal. It's 5 cigarettes a day. It's 10 cigarettes a day. You don't think about the consequences in that moment while you're doing something, right? Okay. But 10, 20 years down the line, when you have, cancer that you're dealing with due to your smoking, or 30 years down the line, you're facing an issue with obesity, and now you have a hard time taking off 60 pounds because you only had to take off 15 pounds at one point. Now you got 60 pounds to take off, and it's like walking around with a 60-pound dumbbell throughout the day because your body needs to be at 150. You weigh 210 pounds. Who in the right mind can walk around with a 60-pound dumbbell for 16 hours a day and get proper job done and make the right decisions and not be irritable? You would be so irritated throughout the day if you had to carry a 60-pound dumbbell. And yet most people say, well, it's not a big deal. Right? It's okay, it's just health. Look, if you sit there and you say, I have a safe job, I'm making good money, I'm doing okay, secretly you know that it's not where you want to be. Secretly, you want to go out there and give it all you got and be an entrepreneur, start a business for yourself. And you sit there and you say, I don't have to do it right now. Next month, next year. The same way smoking cigarettes 30 years later is going to give you what? Whatever kind of consequences you're going to have to face, or your weight if you don't take care of your diet. If you don't pursue it 10, 20, 30 years down the line, you have to live decades with the decision of you being afraid of not making that leap of faith at 35 years old. It's going to haunt you, and it's a different kind of a pain. It's not a cancer pain that's going to kill you. It's a kind of pain that lingers, and every night where that human being goes to sleep at night, they have to know, secretly, we never publicize that we didn't make the right decision. It's a secret. You have to dwell on that forever, and that hurts. So if somebody knows what they want to do next, but they're afraid to not do it simply because of not right now, maybe a month from it because I'm too comfortable.
Never the right time.
You are going to have such a massive pain coming to you 10, 20 years down the line.
Man, it's funny that you say that because I heard an interview with Jordan Peterson, who, by the way, this guy has sat with and interviewed. If you haven't subscribed already to Valuetainment, guys, you have to go to his channel and you've got to binge watch his episodes. They are phenomenal. Not only has he interviewed Jordan Peterson, he's interviewed, everybody. Magic Johnson, you've interviewed Ben Shapiro, right? You sat with Ben?
Shapiro, yes.
That would have been an interesting interview.
Very interesting.
You sat with the real-life Donnie Brasco. The list goes on and on and on. Okay, so it's so obvious to me. What Jordan Peterson was saying was, look, something that you want to change today, if you just keep saying later, 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 5 years from now, it's just going to be so much worse. And you're going to be so much older, which makes it harder.
Yep.
It never gets easier with age. And I think that that's a really important thing to take note of, is that while it will never be perfect, today truly is better than tomorrow. And that's kind of an interesting thing. I'm just glad I started when I was so dumb. I was so young at 20 years old. I just didn't know anything.
Oh, yeah.
And failure never became an option for me because I hated school too, because I dropped out of college. I couldn't see another path. And so without other options, and I found that there's this type of person, and my older brother represents this, right? He's got this great job at Intel, he's an engineer, he's very smart, and he just played his cards the way society tells you to play them. And he's so comfortable that I think that he falls into this complacency, that even if he wanted entrepreneurship, which I don't think he does, so he doesn't fit the person listening that's been thinking about starting their own business for the last decade. But I think when you're comfortable, our audience is so savvy on this channel. They're financially equipped, they're fiscally responsible, they make good decisions, pay their bills on time, they earn more than they spend, they've got great credit, they truly have graduated from that Dave Ramsey curriculum. And so I think it's harder. And I think it's harder for them, especially if you start to add ingredients like children to the equation, because there's always that fear of failure. And I look at it a lot differently and look at it and say, well, now your future and your destiny is, you're putting it into somebody else's hands. What happens if you're fired? There's really no sure thing about having a job. That security blanket you think you have is just a facade, isn't it?
So the part I would say to you is the following. So, a guy asked me a question. He says, Pat, I don't know if you notice it, but I notice your content is evolving. I said, tell me what you mean by this. He says, well, you only know you, but I see you from a different viewpoint than you do. Like, I've been following you for 5 years, so I've seen your content evolve to where it's at today. And I notice a 35-year-old Pat is a different Pat than a 40-year-old Pat. I said, okay, that's interesting. You're making that observation. So the one thing that's evolved with this whole thing taking place is the idea of entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship, right? And what do I mean by entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship? My idea isn't for somebody to just say, screw it, go start a business tomorrow, drop everything you got, right?
Of course.
My idea is step number one is start recruiting a team is my number one idea. Start recruiting a team from now, because you may have an example of saying, for instance, like imagine if you have the opportunity to work with Jobs when he's 24 years old and you stick with him for 7 years. You're probably going to be a millionaire, decamillionaire, if not a billionaire, right?
You'd be pretty well off.
What if you were a guy named Edward and you knew Mark Zuckerberg and your father gave you guys $18,000 to start the Facebook idea, and now this Edward kid is worth $4 billion by pure accident, right? What if your name is, Ballmer, and you had a chance to work with a guy named Bill Gates and Paul Allen, and today you're worth, I don't know, $38, $39 billion. How did that happen? And he's never been an entrepreneur. He's only been an intrapreneur. So the idea isn't to be an entrepreneur. The idea is to maximize your current positioning, that you are able to increase your capacity. Look, let me explain it in a way that maybe will show it in a different way. I did a video called How to Reach Your Full Potential. And in this video, How to Reach Your Full Potential, I've worked with thousands of agents over the years, and I've always had a guy that I've looked at, I'm like, oh, this guy can be completely a beast, right? He can completely crush it in this business. So you would have two different people. One guy's capacity of what he can do in life is here. Another person's capacity is here. Another person's capacity is here. So just think about these three different tiers. Let's call them Bob, Jack, and Mary. Okay, Bob, Jack, Mary has the highest upside. Dylan's the middle upside. and Bob is the lowest one, right? Okay. So to Mary, this is overachiever, this is achiever, this is underachiever. Versus to, Dylan's going to be boom, 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 and then to Bob is going to be boom, boom, boom. You get it? If Bob reaches here, he's an overachiever.
Right.
But to where she competes with Bob, and if she beats Bob at his level, she may be an underachiever.
Right.
So I see a lot of people that are like, well, I kicked his ass, I kicked his ass. Dude, you went to MIT.
Right.
What
Like a high schooler playing
what are you
middle
talking
schooler in
about, man?
basketball,
Everybody
right?
knew who you were. You're supposed to completely crush it, and you're trying to compete against another person. So my challenge isn't hey, you have to go out there and do this. My challenge is, if this is your capacity, you have to answer a very simple question. Anybody watching this, they have to answer one simple question. Are you okay if you die and you never, ever get close to your capacity? If you are okay with that, guess what? Continue doing what you're doing right now.
Exactly. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
But the most annoying people in the world, not they annoy me, it's even worse than you annoying me. There's one person that's more annoying than you annoying me, which is annoying yourself.
Right.
I know how to annoy Pat better than anybody else knows how to annoy Pat. There is nothing more frustrating in life than being an ambitious, lazy person. Let me say this one more time. I would not want to be, if there's anybody I would not want to be, is to be a lazy, ambitious, competitive person. Here's what I mean by it. Oh man, I can kill that guy. I'm so good. I'm 10 times smarter than this guy. Well, you sleep in. And you watch Netflix till 3 o'clock in the morning, and so you're tired in the morning, you're not performing well. So what happened right there? You're competitive, you're ambitious, but you're lazy. You got a problem, and you have to live with that person for a long time to come. So the question goes back to very simple. If you're okay, never experiencing being an overachiever at your level, don't compare yourself to me. Don't compare yourself to who I am or who he is. This is a you versus you game, right?
I love that.
If you can get here and you say, this is very important to me, then there's a few things you got to do. And what do you do now? 3 things. You got to start doing something that you're not doing. You got to stop doing something that's not working in your favor. And you got to continue doing the things that you're doing that are right. So start, stop, continue. So at that point, this is when an individual realizes and says, Pat, no one's asked me that question before. I said, John, what do you want to do? If you're okay never reaching your full potential, buddy, I can't help you. I'm not for you. Pat, I want to be an overachiever. Then you got to start doing this, stop doing this, and continue doing this. So that's the relationship that I have with somebody when I sit down with them. The more I figure out what you want, and the more I figure out what you're willing to live life without, game. I can direct you in that direction. But if somebody could care less, you can't do nothing for them.
You said something once, too, that was so profound, so brilliant on this subject. It's something along, I hope I don't butcher it, correct me if I do, but it's something along the lines of the greatest world changers and heroes are found in the graveyard, undiscovered, because they never sold out to their dreams and desires.
Yeah.
Was that close
Yeah,
to
you
it?
nailed it. I mean, listen, this is the whole idea. The debate, it's got the chills all over my body. This is the whole debate about who's the greatest basketball player of all time. Is it Michael Jordan? Is it LeBron? Is it Kobe? Is it Wilt? Is it Kareem? Is it Duncan? Who is it? Who's
is
the
this where
greatest
you're
of
going
all
to go
time?
pick
Right?
on Shaq now?
No, Shaq. No, this would be. And by the way, I talked about Shaq in this specific video, how to reach
Right,
full
because I
potential.
think
That's
there
good
was
memory.
because
Yeah,
he's not hitting free throws. He's not practicing.
He's not an
right.
overachiever. Shaq's an achiever. Listen, if I made you 7'1", 320 pounds with a 35-inch vertical leap, you're gonna get a few $100 million contract, right? But this is the point. I don't think the greatest player in the world is Jordan. I don't think it's Kobe. I don't think it's LeBron. I think it's the guy that was coming up, would have done laps around these guys. Nowhere near to this guy's capability. But he's an underachiever. And man, just don't die being an underachiever, because to me, dying as an underachiever is a wasted life. It's a waste. Complete waste.
I cut some videos with Dan Locke. I hope you do some stuff with him, by the way. And
his team reached out to us.
You guys got to do it. You guys got to do it. I put you guys up there as both the channels to watch if you're an entrepreneur. You want to be an entrepreneur. You guys are both crushing it. But so Dan and I are filming out in Nashville, and he's talking about his mentor Dan Pena, right? So Dan Pena, I heard him say the same thing once, where the greatest tragedy is missed human potential. And I think that's exactly what you're saying right now, is just the fact that what we actually see today and experience today isn't even a fraction of what probably was possible had all the people with the potential achieved what they could have if they were overachievers. That is some incredible stuff that you're talking about. So you've obviously failed lots of times. What do you do to allow the failures to motivate you versus discourage you and cause you to sort of throw in the towel?
Great question. So number one, I used to lose sleep over trying to influence things I had zero control over. Let me say that one more time. I used to lose sleep trying to influence things I had zero control over. It is a recipe for disaster. Okay. Versus I put all my energy and I conserved it and I put it in areas where I have control over and I can influence. Something happened right now. We're working on a big deal, very, very big business deal. This is a big media blast deal that we're doing that could be the biggest thing we've ever worked on. No problem. We've been going back and forth. Lots of conflict. I've had to go back and forth to try to negotiate this deal to make it happen. Finally, well, this person's saying this, that person's saying this person's saying this. We've been going back and forth for a week. No problem. I said, look, if this is really the area of concern you're bringing up, and these are the other three people that you're telling me have an issue with this thing, here's what I want to do. Get everybody on a conference call. Let me lead the way. Once we get on a conference call, if I can't close, it's my loss. I'm okay with that. I have no problem losing if my abilities don't get me there. But I am not going to lose sleep if I don't get on that conference call and we do that conference call. That is my lack of effort to say, let's have a conference call. So that's my loss because I didn't say, let's at least set up the conference call. Like, let's just say one of your guys doesn't want to invest with you and they said, no, we're not interested. No problem. If I don't have an opportunity to sit with you after I ask a question, why don't you want to invest? My attorney said this is not a good investment. If I don't take the lead to get on the phone with you, your attorney, your wife, your decision, whoever the decision makers are, that's my lack of effort. That's my lack of ability to persuade. But if there is something I take a loss that I have zero control over, I lose this much sleep over. Just bummed out. I'm like, I wish it would have happened, but you know what? Can't do nothing about it. So that allows you to stay sane throughout your journey of building a business. And when you have a loss, you're okay with it. What can I improve? What did I have zero control over? And I'm good.
Boy, that sort of answers some of my next question, because one of the fears I had about inviting you onto the episode was relatability, right? So we've got a lot of people that are sort of living that $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 per year lifestyle. Again, living within their means, but really trying to pull. I require a minimum cash flow position of $500 or more per month, even to be considered for our coaching. So people are cash flowing, right? And it could be $500 or $5,000 or even $25,000. But my fear was, here we've got a guy that is crushing it, right? You've got this huge platform, 1.2 million subs. People are going to listen to this and say, yeah, but look, you're so good. And in fact, I put you up there with one of the most prolific storytellers, one of the most prolific interviewers of our generation. I look at you the same way I would look at a Charlie Rose or a Jerry Weintraub, a Sean Evans. I love Sean Evans, the Hot Ones guy, right? Just asks really, really good questions. And so I look at this and go, man, it's just so intimidating. You listen to your stories. Every answer is so easy for you to convey. The education just flows naturally. These are gifts. This is God-given talent, right? But I think some of what you just said is so relatable in a way, because all you really just said to everybody listening is that's beyond their control, right? If you don't necessarily, all you can do is work on yourself.
Yeah.
You can go to Toastmasters, right? You can, if you want to be a better public speaker, you can go out and you can fine tune that. And if you just start there, if you just work on your capabilities of doing it, I think you can go so much further. Because I do think your interviewing skills, I do think your knack with people, I think your storytelling capabilities, it's so compelling. That has to be an advantage for you in business.
Yeah, so I'm not going to sit here and play the card of no, poor me, I'm not that good. I'm not going to play that game because that's...
Right, your strengths.
No, because I'm patronizing you and I'm being content. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give you the respect. But I'm going to give you the other side of it as well. I know my weaknesses, and I know the way I'm wired is a complete different wiring for me to get to a point where I can accept what I will not excel in. And then I'm not going to put time into it, okay? Let me explain. Okay, so my message isn't go be me. My message isn't go be Zuck or Elon, or my message isn't go be you. I'm not giving that message there at all. I think sometimes the reason, there's two different types of people, and this can be very tough. Well, whoever's listening, someone's about to have a little bit of pain in their belly when I explain this to you. The one group is, all they ever do is compare themselves to people way ahead of them. They're constantly comparing themselves, right? And, well, you don't understand, but you don't understand. Like when we were coming up, I'm like, listen, guys, here's what you have to realize. We had 2,000 subscribers. I said, first of all, that guy's kicking our ass. Holy moly, that's amazing. Unfreaking believable. Dang, are you serious? What are we doing? No way in the world. Look, but we're competing here. What can we do to get better and have our game be our game? What is the one word? We're not trying to be everybody. We're going to pick one word. Our one word is what? Entrepreneur. So I said, our content moving forward has to solve for X. X equals entrepreneurs. What's on the entrepreneur's mind? That's what we're going to create content about, because that's what I know a lot about. And through the experiences I'm going through, I'm going to create content based on that. I raise money, I do video on raising money. I feel I do video on top 10 biggest mistakes I made. Hiring, firing, everything is I'm creating content. Okay. So the one challenge is most people compare themselves to somebody, and you're bound to be disappointed. I gave a talk 2 weeks ago. This was so uncomfortable talk. It was a private talk, but I'll give you this talk. Just visualize being in this meeting. Mario was in the room when I gave this talk. I said, so we are so worried about being compared. I said, us men and women both have insecurities. Guys act like we don't have insecurities, but we probably have more insecurities than women, but we are more tough on the outside. So we're like, no, let me tell you who I am. Where women, they have this gift of talking to other people about their fears, and so they let it out and they're more comfortable with them. So because they have somebody to talk to. I said, I want you to think about, I'm gonna make this room very uncomfortable. I want you to think about you and your spouse just had sex. Okay? Again, going back to the analogy, say, Pat, you always make analogies to romantic stuff. I said, think about you just got done with your wife or your husband. And you ask, so babe, man, how was it, babe? Not as good as Bob, but it was good. I want you to think about this. Babe, and honey, how was it? Honey, it was good, but I tell you, Mary would do backflips. But it was good. I think I give it a 6. Can you imagine that reaction? I mean, what the hell is wrong with you? Officially, it's done. Every time you go into bed, look at your face just got red.
Oh my God, I feel like that would be it. That would be the last time.
I can't do this anymore. Yeah. Let's go to the bedroom. I'm not, all you're thinking about is Bob. Right. Here's the moral of the story. Listen, newsflash. You are probably not better in everything than Bob. And you are probably not better than everything than Mary. However, whoever decided to marry you, in their mind they said, but he is better than him in 6 out of 10 areas. Or 7 out of 10 areas. Or these areas that matter to me more than those other areas because I matured and I realized what's important. In life, we compare always our weaknesses to someone's strength, which is the other game you got to play. You got to play the game of what is my strength that others don't have. I'm going to bank on this part. Right? Now I'm going to give you the flip side of the coin. The other part, the thing many of the talented, high-capacity people hate the most is the following. And you know exactly where I'm going with this here in a minute. They hate being in the shadow of somebody. They hate it. Everybody always compares me to my dad. So I'm drinking alcohol because I hate being compared to my dad because my dad did so much. And everybody says, I should be like my dad. And so one is comparing ourselves to somebody way ahead of us. The other one is being in the shadow of greatness, a father, a mother, a mentor, a former coach, an older brother. You're in that shadow and that drives you insane. And secretly, you don't want to talk about the shadow. So you backtrack and you play safe. Because God forbid if you put your hand in the game and all of a sudden you screw up, you go in the arena, he lost, he's not as good as brother, he's not as good as dad, he's not as good as mentor, until finally, I used to be compared to a couple guys and it was messing with me. I was 32, 33 years old. And I'm like, you know what, these guys were both founders of a company and in the financial industry. I'm like, you know what, it was messing with my head. And then finally one day I said, Pat, 35 years old, I said, listen, first of all, for you to be in the shadow of 2 guys who both built billion-dollar companies, just be grateful that you are in a shadow of multi-guys that build multi-billion-dollar companies. That is a compliment. So you got 2 groups of people. One, who are afraid to go in because they're afraid of being compared and they're constantly comparing their weakness to somebody else's strength, so they don't want to go in. Then you got the other guys that are kind of like, you know what, I'm in a shadow. And you know you have so much talent, but you're afraid to go in because you might get dirty and disappoint yourself. Either way, you got to make the next move because, like I told you earlier, you are going to face this pain 10, 20 years down the line that's going to last a lifetime.
And this is where recreating your identity comes in, right?
Always.
So doing the impossible, right? This is the book. This is the book you got to buy. So doing the impossible, you talk about three things, right? So you talk about obviously recreating yourself, right? So you got to work on your identity. This is the self-development, the reading, the studying, the research, the networking, the apprenticeships, et cetera. And then you're going in, you're identifying that cause. So you're saying, what means enough to me to go through that pain, right? Because if you don't have something that means more than the pain hurts, you're probably not going to stick with it consistently. That's experience I've seen firsthand, of course. And then changing the world. And I would say that's probably where you made the decision to leave Transamerica, right? You're saying, I've got all this commission coming, I'm making good money. This may not be the best time to start my own business, and screw it, I'm doing it anyway. It's because you wanted to have a bigger impact, right? So recreating yourself, what would be some of the first steps that you would recommend people do to shed some of those comparisons? Because the people that I know that aren't taking the steps, that's probably one of the biggest fears, is putting themselves out there and to be compared and have 10 likes instead of 10,000 likes. And you're looking at that and you're never good enough. It's just a lot of self-doubt and just simply not having the worth. I don't know. What would you say are some of the first steps for somebody to take?
To recreate yourself? So what, why, how? Those are the three questions you got to answer. What do you want? Why do you want it? How do you get it? Very simple. Most of us focus on how first. How do I become a millionaire? How do I run a business? How do I become an entrepreneur? How do I do this? How do I do that? How do I do that? There's plenty of how-tos on YouTube. We have access to more answers on how-tos today than ever in the history of mankind.
I know.
So why is it that the still same percentage of people are winning?
That's a really good question.
So think about that. So we have more how-to today. I can go find out how to make beer today on YouTube, and I'll find it. How to make beer, how to make wine, how to make everything, right? Because the how is not the most important part. What do you want, okay? Who do you want to be in life? You're done. It's the last day, you're dying. Your signature, when I see the name, who are you? How many people show up to your funeral? What are people going to say about this person?
So you're taking it all the way to the end.
I'm going all the way to the end.
You're just reverse engineering.
What life do you want to live? Who do you want to be? And then why do you want to live that life? And put up with all the pain of experiencing that joy, that glory of becoming the life you want to live and who you want to be. Then you go to the how-to. So first step is the first two things you got to figure out. And the how-to part is, what skill set do I need to get there? Now, skill set, there are gifts, there are skills. For example, you're a good communicator. That is a gift, okay? Now, say I'm a 4 and you're an 8. Can I probably become a 6? Yes. Can I become an 8 like you? Maybe not, but I can become a 6. I can improve that, right? So math, you may say, well, Pat, you're very good with math. Yeah, fine. Let's just say I'm an 8 in math and somebody else is a 4. Can they become a 6? Yes. So there's certain things strategically you can better at. That's skill set. So bank on your gifts, improve the skill sets you need to become what you want to be and who you want to live, what you want to live and who you want to be. Then figure out the why, then get the how. How it's going to be a piece of cake in no time. So, but recreating yourself, I've done it multiple times in my lifetime. Every year, I want to recreate myself a minimum of 2 to 4 times a year.
2 to 4 times a year you're recreating yourself.
I'd like to recreate myself every quarter.
Wow.
Every quarter. When we shut down Valuetainment, the first time it was about recreating ourselves.
Okay.
We may do it again because we're trying to recreate it's always in the recreation game. But my goal is to recreate myself every 2 to 4 times a year.
How much of an impact does other people have on you recreating yourself? Mentors, coaches?
Oh, a lot.
So how much influence is this inside recreation?
I mean,
that's huge for me.
Yeah, a lot of times. I mean, for me, a guy asked me on the flight today, who are your mentors? I showed him a picture. I said, these are my mentors. They're all dead. It's a painting I put on my wall of my office. It's a picture of Shah of Iran. It's a picture of Senna, Ayrton Senna, the race car driver, whom changed my life when I watched his documentary. I've watched it probably 20, 30 times. I named my daughter after him. My daughter's
What's
named
the name
Senna.
of the doc?
It's called Senna, S-E-N-N-A. I highly recommend everybody watch this documentary. It's one of the most, you'll be in so much tears, and you have to watch it by yourself. Nobody can be around. There can't be no distraction when you watch this documentary. I had every one of my executives, I brought them in, I flew them out to Puerto Vallarta, and I had them watch this. We sat there and watched it together. I wanted to be silent. We're not stopping. We're watching this movie together. I have Senna there, I have Lincoln there, I have Kennedy there, I have Einstein, I have Milton Friedman, I have MLK, and I have Tupac there, okay? Most of my mentors are dead. Most of the people that mentor me are dead. and I read through their interviews, through their books, through what other people said about them, through what their mom said about them, through what their wife said about them, ex-wife said about them, friends said about them, enemies said about them, I learned more about these folks. But to go back, and then today, mentors today, I have a handful of people that advise me, and I cannot tell you what these guys have done. I mean, there's a handful of people that have made me a better CEO. Every time we do our interview, our monthly board meeting, there's this one guy named Greg. Every time I get better because of Greg. Every time, this guy named Greg, he is one brilliant, amazing with math. I think went to Wharton Business School. Has made a lot of money. When I say a lot of money, I'm talking a lot of money. And he's made people hundreds of millions of dollars over the years because he knows how to get his deals right. He gives me a different perspective. But I got a lot of different people that give me advice: marriage, health, business, finance, leadership, CEO. But I wouldn't be the same without it.
How do you advise people to start surrounding themselves with the right people, to let the right people in? What are those first steps? Let's say you don't have the right family support, right? Your parents haven't necessarily given you what you need in order to go out and take charge of your life, set the narrative, as you said.
Yeah.
So what are some of the ways? Would it be something like a meetup that you're going and you're looking for like-minded individuals?
Oh yeah, okay. So that's so. First of all, you have to realize mentors have levels. Okay, just like if my son today has a coach, the coach doesn't need to teach him how to do a scissor kick. He needs to learn the basics of dribbling the ball. That's what he needs. Who can teach my son how to dribble the ball? Mario was the captain of his team, and they won a championship. He was a great soccer player for Birmingham. Did I say Birmingham? Victor and Balboa, right? And Van Nuys and Encino, Birmingham. So you watch him play soccer, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, this guy's sick. So he can probably teach somebody up to the age of 14. Can we say you can bring value to a kid up to 14? You could. But now imagine if I want to go play college. Now he's no longer my mentor. So
you have
in
to keep
life,
up-leveling
you
your
have
mentor
to.
based on his
if
skills,
I've never
right?
made six figures, somebody else makes six figures. That six-figure mentor is a mentor to a guy that's never made six figures and I made 50. But if I've made six figures now, that six-figure mentor to me is old. I got to move on.
Yeah.
And sometimes people make more money than their mentors and they keep going back to the same mentor. You got to get to the next level and the next level and the next level because
Such a good point.
yeah, you'll plateau if you don't do it. You will plateau if you don't do it.
So were your parents mentors to you?
My father in a big way. My mom had a lot of influence in my life. A lot.
How do you teach your kids differently than how you were raised based on what you've achieved?
Great question. So on the flight today, I told the guy, I said, there's a few things I teach my kids every night. Number one, every night I go to sleep, I tell my son, hey guys, what are 4 things we do as a family? And my sons will say, Dad, lead, respect, improve, love. And I explain each one of them. In every position you're in, you got to lead, okay? You got to respect people because no matter what, there's always something that somebody can teach you, no matter what. You got to respect people because you can learn something from everybody. You got to improve. It's the biggest peace of mind. Peace of mind for me in life is as long as I'm improving, I'm peace. I'm at peace. It's the the only time you will start second guessing yourself and have anxiety and fears is when you don't improve anymore. It's a very weird place to be. So lead, respect, improve, love. Love people, even your enemy, because sometimes everybody in the world needs more love. That's one. Number 2, we don't bully people and we don't get bullied. I'll give you a story. Last week, 2 weeks ago, my son, some parents are going to disagree with this, but this is my kid and this is how I raise him. So my son goes to school and he goes to soccer practice. And all of a sudden my wife calls me, babe, you won't believe what happened. What? Tico punched a kid in the face and the coach just came and kicked him out of practice in front of everybody. What? Yes. What are you talking about? Yeah. Put him on speaker. Put him on speaker. Tico, did you punch this kid in the face? I did, Daddy. Why'd you punch him in the face? Daddy, he punched me in the stomach first. Pop, what do you mean he punched you in the stomach? Daddy, I did what you told me to do. And he starts crying. And I'm like, oof. My kid, the older one, doesn't lie. This is a value kid, man. So I said,
How old is he?
He's 7 years old. I said, Dad, you told me to stand up for myself. And I did. He hit me in the stomach and I punched him in the face. You told me don't let anybody bully you. I'm like, buddy, if you're telling me the truth, you know how this works. I am telling you the truth. No problem. He's getting upset. I called the owner on the line with him there. I said, yeah, hey, Johnny. Let's call him Johnny. Yes, Johnny, can I ask you why you kicked my son out of practice? Yeah, because he punched a kid in the face. How do you know he didn't get punched first? Well, that's what the coach told me. Coach told me that he got punched in the face and he told your son to go home. You guys got cameras there? Yes. I need you to look at the cameras and tell me what happened. No problem, we'll do that. But if it shows that the other kid punched my son first, you have to apologize to my son. Well, let us check the cameras first. They go check the cameras. They call me 3 hours later. Sir, your son is right. The other kid did punch him in the stomach first. But then your son punched him in his face. We apologized. I said, listen, you don't need to apologize to me. My feelings are not hurt. This kid stood up for himself and you kicked him out for doing the right thing. And he goes home and the other kid stays and he doesn't get it. I said, we have a problem. I said, I'm bringing him practice next week. When he comes in, I need the coach to apologize to him. He says, no problem, sir. So I went and took my son standing next to me. And I said, stand up right here. Coach comes. Patrick, last week we were wrong. Stud, coach from Venezuela. Absolute stud. I will pay this guy to coach my kid for the rest of the time. I said, what else you guys want? I'll pay more for a coach like this. So the guy's a freaking beast of a stud. He just made a mistake. So I said, son, we made a mistake. He hit you first and you stood your ground. And I want you to know I apologize. I hope you accept my apology. Yes. He says, next time, please get me involved. And before you decide to lose control, get me involved. If I can help, but I want you to hold yourself a little bit back with your emotions next time. Fair. Good. You know what happened to my son? So then he left and he tried to kind of act like, oh, my dad's always going to protect me. He kind of tried to be in a brat. I said, what are you doing? I'm sorry. I said, don't think you can abuse this friendship with me here. You went back and you tried to abuse your coach. Your coach is telling you what to do. Don't act up. Listen to what he's got to tell you. Then coach is like, oh, wow, I thought this is one of those protective dads that his son can't do anything. I said, no, that's not this dad. But I'm building his value. So lead, respect, and prove love. We don't bully, we don't get bullied. Then 4 things we pray for from God. And this one my oldest son will say. I said, what do we pray for? Courage, wisdom, tolerance, understanding. Courage, wisdom, tolerance, understanding. You need courage because many times you're going to be scared. Wisdom because you want to be able to make decisions way ahead of your age as you're coming up. Tolerance because sometimes you're going to deal with people that are going to be very annoying. You need tolerance. Understanding because you have to understand the other person's position, why they think the way they think. I said, you do that, life's going to be okay for you. So
life would be okay for adults if these were lessons.
Yeah.
This isn't just for the children. This is excellent stories. Well, listen, I've got a million more questions for you, but we're going to wrap it up. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time here, Patrick. This has been such an honor. I would talk to you for 3, 5, 10 hours straight. Guys, for those of you that are not yet familiar with Valuetainment, make sure you head on over to that channel. You've got to hit subscribe. Also, May 1st through May 4th, check out the link in the description below for the Vault. This is a big conference coming up in Dallas, right?
Dallas is the first 3-day conference I'm hosting where people are registered from 36 different countries, and we'll have speakers there, but I'm going to be going through 15 hours of sharing all my strategies on what I do to grow your business during good times and bad times. It'll be Dallas, May 1st to May 4th.
I mean, how can you miss it? If you're serious about growing a business, if you want to be successful as a business person, this is a must-attend event, life-changing indeed. If you guys want us to bring Patrick back at some point, please drop a thumbs up on this video. Leave your comment below. What questions did we not ask that you'd like to hear from him the next time? So grateful for your attendance today. Patrick, thank you again so much.
Thanks for having me.
Really
Great
appreciate
interview.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.